What is going on, everyone? Badger here. Should have like and sub, and let's get into this. We are up to part 5 of the D files, of course, from Alan Ng of Film Threat, detailing just exactly what the hell happened over there at Pixar and Disney's animation wing. All starting with the outing or intentional firing of John Lasseter under false pretenses, and then moving in a bunch of DEI hires, basically, that were ill-equipped for actual animation duties. So Disney's animation's slow descent into obscurity. It all began with Wish for the D-Files, that is. After I attended an early press screening of the feature, it was clear to me that Disney's Wish was the worst animated feature in the 100-year history of the Walt Disney Company, and ironically, was the film meant to commemorate this incredible milestone. My early review opened a floodgate for current and former Disney artists and animators reaching out to the Film Threat with their stories about what is happening behind the scenes at Disney and has been for the last decade. I was told that not only was Wish bad, but it was intentionally bad, or more accurately, misguided from the start. In the D-Files Part 1, I recounted the events that led to this Wish disaster, beginning with John Lasseter's firing and humiliation over alleged #MeToo accusations and the outcry to get a woman to run this place. That woman would be Jennifer Lee. In Part 2 and 3, I showed that Jennifer Lee slowly and subversively ushered in her new vision for the Disney animation and its staff in response to the #MeToo Lasseter ousting, and with the help of the gender equity advocacy group Women in Animation, Lee strove for 50-50 equity between male and female Disney artists. But we learned that leveling the playing field was never her intention. She replaced the old white guy veteran artists with inexperienced women from Tumblr. Sources told us that these new recruits were used to slowly and systematically remove the old white guys by fostering a hostile work environment where every move they made and every word they spoke was under constant scrutiny. After a steady flow of unwarranted complaints with HR, humiliating re-education sessions, and living under the constant fear of firing, the old white guys who did not submit to Lee's new vision were finally gone. Part 4 describes the new storytelling mandates put in place not only at Walt Disney Animation, but also at Pixar, Star Wars, and Marvel. Lee's first feature film with her complete stamp of approval from start to finish was Strange World, which leaned heavily into producing an environmental allegory with a gay teen love story. Audiences stayed home for this one, tanking at the box office. Lee responded, "This is a bummer, but the message is important and we will press on with it." The message, as a critical drinker has lovingly been putting forward for a while now, and press on they did, which brings us to Wish. The queen of passive aggression. With Wish, Lee's hand-selected animators, artists, writers, and musicians were now in place. No excuses for failure. When asked about Jennifer Lee, many former Disney artists spoke about Lee's management style, especially regarding how she formed her teams. Many felt that when she took over to replace John Lasseter, her goal was to clean house of Lasseter loyalists. They felt that ultimately you were either with Lee or against Lee in her mind. When interacting with her, you knew right away if she liked you or not. If she liked you, she would listen to you and give you the best scenes to work on. Of course, her favorites mainly consisted of female artists and male yes persons. If you got on her bad side, or male, you were given the crappy assignments, which rarely involved character animation and often consisted of environmental animation or quick scenelets slipped in between significant scenes. It didn't matter how many years you had been with the company or how many features you worked on in the past, it ultimately boiled down to whether Jennifer Lee liked you or not. Oh boy. Sources describe Lee as very cunning in how she conducted herself with those on her shit list. You could get a conversation with her, she would nod and acknowledge you, and then end the conversation quickly. Then, in a typically passive-aggressive move, she would have taken you off the project for being a problem. Problematic. This happened to many veteran talents who dared to express their opinion, particularly in matters of how things used to be. As much as Wish was meant to be an homage to Walt Disney's legacy, it appeared to be the final move in Jennifer Lee's ascension to Walt's throne. When I first started reporting about Disney's toxic work environment on the Film Threat livestream, it was soon brought to their attention that I got some of the crucial facts wrong. Wrong, yes, but the reality was far worse. My first mistake was when I revealed that Wish took 4 months to animate and that the final product looked rushed. Insiders told me that 4 to 6 months for the bulk of actual animation is pretty standard. Zootopia had a similar 6 month production time. Even at other studios like DreamWorks, big hits like How to Train Your Dragon suffered a similar fast production fate. The fact is, animators work long hours all the time. The truth is that with Wish, it was the production and production support staff being pushed to the edge and conspiring to unionize as a result. They supported over 100 animators and had to cram a normal 8 to 12 month schedule into 4 month schedule specifically for Wish, with a hard July 31st deadline to meet the 100th anniversary release date. At this point, the production staff wanted to unionize, and Disney ignored their request during the production of Wish. When discussing the new, inexperienced talent being ushered into Disney animation, I said that this would inexperience showed, and Wish's art style and direction reflected that. It turns out that many of the insiders within the production said that the amateurish look of Wish came directly from the top. Jennifer Lee, and it was intentional. Facts that would be backed up in the making of documentary on the Wish DVD and Blu-rays. With degrees coming from the top, they told artists and animators that Wish was going to be a 2D animated feature created with 3D technology. Oh my, bland and flat. Yes. The making of documentary points out that the background art was always meant to look flat, that depth of field would be eliminated to mimic Walt Disney's classic animation style, and that all characters would have a line art look to them. This begs the question, why make a 2D hand-drawn animated feature with CG when you could hand draw it in the first place? The making of the documentary prominently featured Lee's loyalists, who would never dare question Lee's judgment regarding the animation style, at least not on camera. They spoke constantly about how they had to shift their approach and sensibilities to animation with Wish compared to every film they worked on prior. Artists who did not appear in the documentary knew Lee's artistic vision was in trouble from the start and were helpless to fix it. They felt like they were on a sinking ship, because you are. When I asked the artists who worked on the film if they had seen Wish in the theater, practically all of them said no. They didn't even bother to take their children to attend the early screening for cast members. All creative decisions were decided from the start by Disney Animation president and Wish co-writer Jennifer Lee and directors Chris Buck and Fawn Veerasunthran. I can almost imagine the initial creative meetings with Buck, Lee, and Veerasunthran come in with a marginally good idea, and everyone in the room starts to build upon this bad foundation of a film. Anyone who would ask common sense questions or push back on the ideas had been removed long ago. Instead, everyone, and this is the experience in every writer's room, I think, for the most part. Instead, everyone nods their head and agrees it's the greatest idea ever, and excitement and synergy abounds. Nothing was going to stop this crappy art train, so shut up and draw. There were those who tried to right the ship, but unfortunately, they were not allowed in the room. When speaking to current and former Disney artists, they raised concerns about the film's use of a static fixed camera or the fact that foregrounds and backgrounds were in focus. Every time these concerns were raised, they were immediately dismissed as these decisions had already been made. So shut up and draw. Oh, sorry. I got caught. There we go. Go back. Continue. Thank you. Those ads, they get you. One artist gave me a list of the Disney Animator feedback and complaints regarding Wish. The overall animation looked unfinished, especially the animated crowds, lighting, and clothing simulation. The response was that this was intentional, supported by that documentary. The faces in the back of the crowd were unfinished to replicate how Walt did it in Sleeping Beauty. The attempt at 2D animation with 3D technology was a massive failure. It was too heavy-handed in some places and not used enough in others. The look constantly pulled audiences out of the story. This happens when you fire an entire staff that worked at the studio for for decades to try to mimic Walt's artistic vision without their knowledge or experience. Something they seem to think they could do in every aspect. They seem to think from every movie studio, they somehow thought they could mimic decades of experience. I just don't get why they thought they could do that. The songs seemed forced into the film and didn't feel like a Disney musical. The making of documentary spoke to how it was a bold move on Lee's part to hire pop songwriters Julia Michaels and Benjamin Rice for Wish instead of relying on Disney tradition of hiring Broadway lyricists and composers. Please, someone quickly tally up the best song nominations Wish got compared to every other Disney musical since The Little Mermaid. Also, whose families are singing Wish songs on long trips? No one. Lastly, Wish focused too much on the audience's love of Easter eggs. Speaking of Easter eggs, Jennifer Lee leaned too heavily into an audience desire to hunt for Easter eggs versus telling a good Disney classic story. An insider reached out to me regarding the Wish Easter eggs. This source attended several audience test screenings of Wish, the first in February of 2023. The first screening, 5% of Wish was fully animated, with 85% being storyboard animatics. Much of the criticism from the audience spoke to confusion with the overall story and character motivations. Was perceived that the moderator wasn't looking for story feedback, but was more, they cared more if you noticed the Easter eggs as opposed to if you liked the characters or thought the story was good. About a month later, another test screening was conducted. Though more of the film had been animated, none of the story feedback from the first session had been incorporated into this version. This particular screening was catered explicitly to Disney adults who said they visit Disneyland several times a year. The moderator kept probing how many Disney references they caught. They caught 5. Further harping on Easter eggs, a significant section of the making of documentary was devoted to the subject. Again, because we all love Easter eggs. For example, Asha was supposed to be a young fairy godmother. Cinderella's fairy godmother used her magic to create a carriage from a pumpkin. Thus, pumpkin seeds were sewn into Asha's costume. Yeah, people weren't getting it. And Disney's Death Wish, almost done here. When Wish came out 4 months ago, the public would cast the final judgment on Jennifer Lee's master vision. With a production budget of $200 million and accompanied by a massive Disney 100 marketing push, Wish would earn $19.6 million domestically over the Thanksgiving weekend and almost $64 million in total domestic. Thankfully for Disney, the international audiences didn't know any better, bringing in over 2.5 times the domestic take of $176 million. It's estimated that the losses for Wish range from $200 to $230 million. So how did we get here? The problem with Wish began from the start. As I've shown from part 1, Jennifer Lee had taken her place on Walt's throne to rule as Walt Disney Animation Studios president. She then removed the old guard of veteran animators with anyone whom she could trust and would align with her vision. The old white guys club was replaced by a new generation of Tumblr artists and Gen Z millennial yes persons who went on to produce the first in a line of Disney animated flops in Strange World. Holding to her vision, Lee proudly took on the mantle of producing the Walt Disney 100th anniversary feature, and from the beginning locked in on her own ideas, because they're all narcissism, so they all think that their ideas are best, of course. Listening only to those who would agree with her and shutting down anyone who warned her about the dark path this film was headed down. Pride comes before a fall, and this is what happens when one person believes she knows how to tell a story better than even Walt Disney. I could write even more articles about the problems with Wish, from story to music, and how the film violates almost every basic rule of art and film composition. It's hard not to feel bad for the rank and file Disney artists whose professional reputations were hurt by this movie despite their warnings. The buck stopped at the very top with Jennifer Lee. On deck for Lee is a quickly converted television show to feature film, Mona 2, set for Thanksgiving and feverishly being produced in Canada. The space adventure ILO, set for 2025. In the next D-Files, what exactly is the future of Disney animation and their move out of Hollywood and the US? Well, we'll find out that in part 6. Thank you for joining me this time. That is part 5, Disney's Death Wish. And boy, that Jennifer Lee, she's out of control. But just one more corrupted cog in a corrupted machine of corrupted Hollywood. It's all bad, folks. It's all bad.
Yeah, but they were all bad.
Anyway, let me know what you think of this. If you made it all the way through, comment down below. Be sure to like, share, and sub. If you've done that, thank you. If you're going to do that, thank you. And
Well, Bye.